computer. All right, well, without further ado, we can go ahead and get going. Welcome, everybody. My name is Tabiso Rowan. I'm one of the community engagement specialists with Disability Hub MN. Give me 1 second here. Just getting a technical question. Okay, give me 1 second. That should work. Okay, I'll see if that works. Should be able to. Yeah, in the chat, if anyone wants to chat, you should be able to hit where it says two, and there's a blue tab, and you can hit everyone. Um, okay, I'll see if I can fix that in a little bit here. So, try and make sure we can get everyone be able to chat. So, in any case, though, yeah, we'll just get back to our introduction here. So I'm Tabiso, work with Disability Hub Man. I'm a community engagement specialist, and we've had a partnership with Volunteers of America and Anita Raymond, who we have here, and so she's gonna give us some information on supported decision making, and some other good things that she has going on here with Volunteers of America. So yeah, so Anita, please, yeah, feel free to introduce yourself. Welcome, and welcome everybody, all the participants and all the attendees, and our ASL interpreter Sophia and Alicia, our captioner as well. So thanks everyone for joining us. All right.
Yeah, I echo the thanks. Thanks for having me, and thanks for all of you who are here with us live today and who might be watching in the future. Glad to be here with you and appreciate your interest in the conversation. I will introduce myself along with introducing my program within my organization, and then we'll talk some more about supported decision making and why it's important, and round out our time together with some resources and try to hopefully have some time for conversation, at least through the chat when we're finished. So, I'm the director of the Center for Excellence in Supported Decision Making, which is a program of Volunteers of America, Minnesota, which is itself a very large organization with programming across the lifespan in the realm of health and human services. In my particular area at Volunteers of America, in the Center for Excellence, we are all about anything related to guardianship. We don't serve as guardians, but we do a lot of work in the realm of promoting best practices in guardianship, promoting modification and legislation changes to have better guardianship systems. And all of our work is around wanting to our mission is really to be able to have systems where individuals with disabilities are supported, get what they need, but in the least restrictive manner possible. We appreciate the existence of guardians and guardianship, but also we recognize, as we'll talk about, that there's a lot of benefit of enabling people and supporting people to remain in charge of their own lives, not hand off decision making to someone else, to utilize guardianship only when it's absolutely necessary, and instead look at whenever we can avoid it by helping support people to get what they need and what they want, where they get to remain as the primary decision maker of their own lives. So the way we do that at the Center for Excellence, the most forward facing, to talk like a corporate person, the most forward facing aspect people know us most for is our guardianship information line. And I'm just going to skip ahead to another slide to show you the contact information for the guardianship information line. And I see that Tabiso also put a link to our webpage in the chat. So that's a valuable resource too. In our info line, we do a great deal, over 1,300 conversations per year with individuals who email or call us with questions about decision making capacity, guardianship, how to get out of guardianship, how to establish guardianship, how to avoid guardianship. What is this thing called supported decision making? So we do a lot of over the phone or email work and virtual meeting work in the information line. We also have a social worker who can do some direct service work in the realm of helping support people in their decision making situations. We can facilitate options like healthcare directives, supported decision making agreements, helping families and individuals work together to figure things out of what they want to do. So we do a lot of that direct service work with people. We also do a lot of what we're doing today, training, outreach, education to community groups, to families, and to a whole lot of professionals throughout the state, professionals in healthcare, social services, residential long-term care providers. So we try to really be part of the statewide conversation about improving guardianship systems and avoiding unnecessary guardianships. And then another piece that I'm not going to talk about, but I wanted to just at least mention because it's part of our umbrella of services at the Center for Excellence, we also have a fee-for-service care management and consultation service where we can help people dive a little deeper into walking the path a little closer with regard to assessments and connecting people to services. And that's more of a general service beyond, including but beyond the decision-making capacity and guardianship kinds of questions that the rest of the programming deals with. All right, so let's transition to the actual reason we're here today and talk about supported decision making and what it is. And the answer to what is supported decision making, as we'll get to, and I'll take a lot longer to say it, what one little sentence answers, it's everything we do to help a person get their wants and needs met. And I'll get a little more technical in a moment. But first, and if we were all together, I would ask people to chat, but I'm going to have Tabiso help me with this. If we think about anything we did today, or it's a little early in the day, so maybe this week or this month, what is something that you maybe wanted or needed help with lately?
Yeah. So, I mean, in terms of, yeah, well, one thing is I had to get a hold of my financial worker at the county regarding I have medical assistance for employed persons with disabilities, and there was a glitch in the system, and I had a heck of a time getting a hold of someone at the county.
Okay. And you couldn't figure out how to just fix it all by yourself.
I could not.
Imagine.
Yeah, right. No.
Even with your tech expertise and your knowledge, you
Mhm.
needed some help. So you asked for
Mhm.
help there. I had a similar thing this week. My company has me working on open enrollment. So we're trying to choose our benefits for next year. And some of the terms that were in there, I couldn't figure out what they were talking about or what it meant to me. So what did I do? I went and asked some people. I went on the internet and looked around a little bit because I couldn't figure it out by myself and I didn't want to make an uninformed choice.
Mhm.
Some of us might have needed help tying our shoes. Some of us might have dexterity issues that we need some extra help getting dressed, or some of us might need some extra help reading something because our vision isn't as well as we would want it to be. So the idea being we don't really think about it in our day to day. We just sort of, hey, can you help out? Right? It's just sort of a thing we do. Um, and we want to acknowledge, all right, I'm going to guess with the example you gave to me. So maybe it's just fine if someone else just did that for you, because that sounds pretty complicated and frustrating. But lots of times, if somebody says, I'll just do it for you and I will forever do it for you. And by the way, since you couldn't figure that out, I'll also take on all the other decisions related to your medical assistance for working people benefits. I'll just do everything. But you have a hard time tying your shoe. I'll just get you dressed every day. Like, how does that feel when someone again, sometimes it's a relief if someone takes over the task for us, but what does it feel like to any of us, including people living with disabilities who might need some extra support, if just because I can't do it in one area, Does that mean I can't do all the related things? Does that mean somebody has to do everything for me? And it translates. I'm a little I'm not as eloquent as I'm wishing I could be right now, but I hope you make get my point of it's the idea of just because I might not understand something that affects my life and I might need some extra support to figure it out, that's okay. And that doesn't mean I have to have a substitute decision maker, or for the purposes of our discussion, a guardian do it all for me. I just need help in one area because I kind of doesn't feel very good when someone just labels me unable and takes it away. I might get angry, I might get frustrated. And instead, what happens if we look to supported decision making as an idea of just in our statutory definition in the guardianship law says that supported decision making is assistance from one or more people. I'll take it out of the legalese a little bit. Assistance from one or more people that I choose to help me understand the nature and consequences of decisions I'm facing in the personal decision making realm in the case of guardianship, or in the financial decision making realm in the case of conservatorship, if somebody takes that away. So, assistance from someone else that I choose, helping me understand my decision, which then helps me be able to make the decision. And if I want, have that person or persons also communicate the decision to me. Why is this in the guardianship statute instead of its own law? Well, a very important reason, and that is that we, in our law, our practice, our policies, again, all are aimed at using guardianship as a last resort, and that we shouldn't be using guardianship if there are other ways, less restrictive ways to help someone to get their needs met, including supported decision making. That says it right in the law. And then it gives us a definition right in the law. But that's a legalese term. It's not too bad, but it's a little technical. So another definition I like to share that I think does a better job of explaining what supported decision making is this one from, he's an attorney. His name is Robert Dinerstein. And he says, again, think about it. Remember that slide a couple of minutes ago when I said it's anything anyone does to help a person get their needs met. That's what this definition by Robert Dinerstein says also. It's a series of, it could be relationships, practices, arrangements, agreements. It can be formal or less formal. It can be very intense or just every once in a while. It might be very frequent or just one or two decisions, but any of the approaches or ideas or ways that we help assist a person with a disability to make and communicate to others decisions about the person's life. Now, this definition says a person with a disability, but I really want us to remember that we all need help making decisions sometimes, whether we have a disability or not, and that we're all entitled, and that there are some double standards in our society. If I need help figuring out something extra to meet my needs, we don't think much about it. Oh, Nita just needs some help. But if I happen to be a person with a diagnosis of intellectual or a psychiatric or a cognitive disability, people might start to think, oh, she can't do it all by herself. She should have a guardian. And we want to really get away from that kind of thinking. And that's why I'm so happy to be here today to talk with you about the ideas and the principles of supported decision making. Because what we know it just from experience. There's a lot of research that backs it up, that people who get to make decisions, they stay in charge. They're the captain of their own ship, if you will. People who get to make decisions about their lives are happier, healthier, including mental health, and they're more likely, depending on their station in life, their life situation, they're more likely to live in community settings, more likely to have market rate jobs, because they have that feeling of self-determination and autonomy, and that feeling of I'm okay, I just need some help, as opposed to what can happen if someone decides I need a guardian. I can feel very depressed and frustrated about that. I might give up. I might not get an opportunity to make mistakes and learn from my mistakes. So I might not grow and develop and progress. So then maybe I'm not able to get a job or live in a setting with more independence. We understand from supported decision making principles, and again, just from life, that we all need help sometimes. Not one person is completely independent, and we all turn to others, whether to gather information, talk to my friend, what did you do? How did you do it? Here's what I'm thinking about doing. We use people as a sounding board. What I just want to talk through this. I want to say it out loud. And even as I'm saying it out loud, before you say anything back to me, I see the flaw in my idea. What ideas might you have? Or I might not see the flaw, but you, as my trusted friend or my trusted family member, can say to me, wait, Anita, if you do that, then this might happen. Have you thought about that? If you just give up and say, I don't want to mess with, there was a glitch in my application and I don't feel like messing with it, so I'm just going to leave it alone because it's the state's fault because the system failed me, that's not a good solution, is it, to be so? Because then you're going to be without your benefits and your supports, right? So it's supported decision making is just all the things we do to turn to others. What would you do in this situation? Can you explain it to me? That social worker or that doctor explained some things to me of what I'm supposed to do, but I really don't understand it. So can you explain it to me in more plain language? Take it out of that technical realm, how you managed a situation similarly. So all the things we just do without even thinking about it. I asked to be so earlier before we started today, can you help me out and share an example? And I think he kind of looked at me like, well, what are you talking about? Because we just do it so naturally. We have a problem, we ask for help, we don't think about it. But sometimes there's double standards with people with disabilities where they need help, so in this area, so they better not be allowed to make decisions in any area, right? So that's that double standard that can happen. Any more thoughts on that, Tabiso?
Um, no specific thoughts. I really appreciate what you're getting at. And it is true. There's, being a person with a disability who's a wheelchair user, there's a lot of situations that come up where it's like I like my independence and I also need assistance. And can be a tricky balance trying to manage both keeping my independence and also getting the assistance I need so I can be independent.
Exactly. That's
Yeah.
exactly right. That's all about finding the balance. And if I could just because you're so helpful to me, I use another example as you give that example, the parallel to just because someone can't make some decisions doesn't mean they can't make all decisions and need a guardian. That's a parallel to your situation. I imagine there might be times, depending on if you're using a manual versus or a muscle powered versus an electric wheelchair, there could be times you can't get through a doorway by yourself or up a curb if it's not accommodating system, and someone might need to give you a little push. But does that mean therefore they should keep pushing you all the time, everywhere, in every situation? That would feel very demeaning.
Mhm.
And that would feel very unnecessary. Your muscles would give out because you're not working anymore. I'm making some assumptions about muscle powered versus electric, but you get my point. And it's similar with the cognitive thinking with intellectual disabilities. If someone does everything for us, we sort of lose that ability or never learn. We never develop skills to be able to do things more on our own and keep that level of independence.
And
Yeah.
one thing I just wanted to, someone it does have their hand
Oh, oh, I'm sorry.
raised, so I
Okay.
don't know if there's chance for questions and I have
Sure.
the way that it works, I can allow them to say something now or wait.
Well, let's go ahead. We're here for everybody. If we've got a hand raised,
Sure,
let's see.
yeah. So I'm gonna hopefully it says Kelly Mills. You should be able to oh, speak here.
Hi,
Looks. Oh, there we go. Gotcha. Yep.
can you hear me?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, I just wanted to mention that the chat is disabled, so we can't pop questions in there as they arise. Was that meant to be that
Sure.
way?
No, let me see if
Thanks for letting us know, Kelly.
yeah, I
I know
appreciate
Teresa was
that.
working on that a minute ago, so
Yeah,
we'll.
I know, and I don't think it fixed it. But my first question was, is this only is when you put the phone number up initially. Was that,
Yeah.
is that only for Minnesota residents?
That's such a great question. I'm glad you asked that. And so that phone number is for if somebody wants to call about a person living in Minnesota, a person with a disability or that we're concerned about that lives in Minnesota, or the person calling us. So we need a Minnesota connection, and we can only talk about, because we only know Minnesota law, but we get lots and lots of people who call us who have a family member that might live in Texas and the family member's in Minnesota. So we'll talk through their concerns with the caveat that they have to figure out, and we could try to help them get connected with someone in Texas, but we don't know Texas law. We can say, if your mom lived in Minnesota, this is what we might suggest. Or again, a person can call from anywhere about a person living in Minnesota. So how's that for an answer?
That's great. Thank you.
People? I hope that helps.
And I have to apologize. I'm not quite sure. I'm allowed to.
You are on mute.
Oh, it's saying I'm muted.
Are we frozen?
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. And I'm getting a message that my internet is unstable, even though I'm connected to the Ethernet. Okay. So if that happens, if we have a problem, I will turn off my video so people can let me know if I'm freezing.
Sure, that sounds good. And yeah, sorry, there's maybe some technical issues. I'm not muted, but yeah, folks can hear me now, and I'm not sure what's going on with the chat.
It's one of those tech days.
Yeah, I can chat with everyone, but please, I'm trying to figure out how to get it so that we can all share in the chat. Otherwise, there is, like I said, you can ask questions through the Q&A tab as well at the bottom there.
And that was helpful too, Kelly, to raise your hand. So, and I appreciate Tabiso's help, because I'm not necessarily seeing if everybody raises their hand. So until that gets fixed, we can also do the hand raise too. Do we have any other questions right now that we know of?
Yeah, not that I'm aware of.
Okay. So I tried to look for some external resources too to help hone in on just what I sort of gave you a philosophical view of what supported decision making is. I thought I would try to bring it to a little more practical level of what does supported decision making look like. And I turned to a resource that I really appreciate a lot, and that is the supported decision making brainstorming guide, which there's a link on the screen, or you can copy when you could enter that into your search engine, or I can help you find it. And we're gonna try to get the handouts with these links to everyone for whom we have your email address, or if you want to reach out to the hub or to CESDM, and I'll put that information up again later, CESDM at VOAMN, and we can get you the handouts too. But the tool, the supported decision making brainstorming guide, is useful in a lot of ways for planning ahead. It walks people through kind of a little workbook, but I just stole some quotes from it for our purposes today, because we're not going to talk today about specifically the process, but rather introduce you to what supported decision making is and ideas of it. And I regret that I just used the phrase the process of supported decision making, because it's not necessarily a process. It's, like I said before, anything we do to help support a person. We don't have to put anything in writing if we don't want to, but we can. We don't have to appoint a supporter. I don't have to officially say my supporter is so-and-so and don't talk to me till they get here. I can just say that in any appointment I'm in, because I have that right as a human being, as a customer of services. So it's not a process. It's more of acts, things we do, things people who support us and care about us do to help make sure we have what we want and what we need. So some examples of supported decision making in the world of managing money. Maybe if I have someone I can really, really trust, but maybe we'll have a joint bank account. And that has some legal implications. So maybe we won't have a joint bank account, but maybe we'll have a bank account that's owned by me. So there's no problems of other ownership, but someone else is a co-signer on my account. So if it's one of those days when I just don't feel well or my disability is flaring, so it's really hard to do much of anything other than lay on the sofa with a cup of tea, that someone has the ability maybe to pay some bills for me temporarily because they're a co-signer on my account. And maybe in addition to or instead of that, we work together to establish a budget. And there are some great tools, some apps for our phones that we can put in, very user friendly, very plain language, and somebody can help me understand, this is my income, these are my expenses, this is how much, if I do well, I have left over to spend on the fun things in life. And then we can do that with an Excel spreadsheet. We can do it on the back of a napkin, or we can use some of the really fun apps that are out there to help me learn budgeting skills. If I spend all my money on my comic books, my big passion, I won't have enough to pay my rent or my medical assistance spend down, and then I won't get to keep living where I want to live. So helping me make a budget that I can figure out how to stick to. Maybe I don't want to manage my money at all, and maybe my only money is from social supplemental security income. So maybe we ask Social Security to appoint a representative payee, and that person takes care of the money for me with my permission. That's an example of supported decision making because someone's supporting me even in this case, extensively in getting my finances managed and protected and taken care of. And similarly, examples of when it comes to healthcare decision making. It's really intimidating to go to the doctor, or I have a complicated medical decision, or they keep talking to me with a lot of medical jargon. Go with me, please. I want someone to come with me to my doctor's appointments and help me understand what the doctor is saying. And also, maybe I have a speech impairment that my family member, my friend can understand better than my doctor can. So maybe by coming with me to the doctor's office, they're sort of interpreting what I'm saying with my permission and making sure they're interpreting correctly, but maybe they can help me communicate because I have a communication barrier. Explaining our healthcare choices in plain language. Maybe I'll sign a release of information so that my supporter, the person I'm trusting to help, or people I'm trusting to help, that they can talk to my doctor even if I'm not in the room, or they can talk to my pharmacy about renewing my medications, renewing the prescriptions, picking up my prescriptions. So signing a release of information is an example of sharing access to my medical content, my data protected medical information that I'm giving someone permission so they can help me understand my healthcare situation and help me make better decisions. Same thing, figuring out where I'm going to live. Maybe when you go with me to tour possible places to live, help me make a list of pros and cons. Maybe you'll go with me to visit places. Maybe we can set up some trial runs. Maybe I can, depending on, there's a lot of depends. Maybe depending on the situation in the house, maybe I can practice what it would feel like to live there by staying overnight as a guest for a couple days, meeting possible roommates, helping me figure out, I've never had a roommate before. What's that like? How do I be a good roommate so that I can keep my roommate, so that I can afford to keep living in this apartment where I want to live, for example. So just all of those kinds of things that we talk through and discuss, figuring out jobs, working with another example of supported decision making. It's not always a friend or family. Sometimes it's a professional. Maybe we have a vocational rehab specialist who works with us. Help me understand the job market, help me understand my skills, help me understand what jobs are out there that I can currently have the skills and abilities and interests in, and maybe some skill building I need to do, some classes or workshops. A voc rehab specialist, they're helping me understand the employment situation. That's supporting me in making a decision because I couldn't figure all that out just all by myself. I don't have that knowledge or expertise. Maybe helping me understand my family member can't keep driving me everywhere. I don't have a driver's license and it's too complicated to figure out how to take the bus. Well, maybe we can work together on learning how to use, if we're in the Twin Cities area, the Metro Transit system, the apps that are available, the plan your ride options that are available, helping me learn and connecting me with some of the excellent resources out there about how to make good choices in my relationships. What's the difference between a friendship and a relationship with somebody who I think is my friend, but they're actually wanting to take advantage of my generosity? Help me understand that friendships are two-way streets. Help me understand the difference between a healthy, intimate relationship and one that's not healthy. When we talk about, teach me about informed consent, those kinds of things. So just because someone might have vulnerabilities and might not be completely independent just naturally in these kinds of life choices doesn't mean somebody can't help me figure it out, and doesn't mean I have to have a guardian to protect me from ever doing it at all. Help me learn, help support me. Just some more examples. I already talked about going along to a healthcare appointment to explain in plain language. And I explain sometimes it's helping, sometimes we hear phrases like person-centered interventions, and sometimes we think that means, well, the person is just making bad choices and that's what they're going to do and that's their right to do. Oh, well, but that's not what person-centered thinking and interventions and practices are all about. It's actually about helping the person understand that while they want to do what's important to them, relationships, hobbies, where they live, they also have to accomplish what's important for them: health, safety, food, pay the bills, a roof over their head. So sometimes, and I gave this example earlier, and I'll say it again now, sometimes it's just a matter of not just letting a person fail and get in trouble and then stepping in and taking a legal action. Maybe instead, proactively talking with the person. Hey, you've told me this was the best decision of your entire life to feel like a grown up, move out of your parents' home, get your apartment with extra supports. But some of the rules of this apartment you've been breaking. And when you let people come and stay with you, having an overnight guest is allowed. But when your overnight guest stays for 3 weeks, that's a violation of the rules, and they're gonna kick you out. They're gonna evict you if we keep going down this path. So what can we do to help keep you going well so you can stay in this place that you said is the best place you've ever lived and you never want to move, right? Using technology to help, where a person has areas where they can't do things by themselves. They might get lost if they're out on their own, out in the world. Which can happen to me because I don't have a good sense of direction. Then let's set things up. Let's teach them how to use Apple Maps or Google Maps. And by the way, let's let them have a cell phone. Yes, a smartphone can also introduce dangerous elements because that's where people find us to scam us. That's where there's romance scams. People can try to take advantage of us. But also, phones have a lot of protective abilities, and we can set up protections and safety plans and backup plans so that we are using our smartphones, and the people we're concerned about are using our smartphones for good, right? So helping people so they don't get lost with maybe GPS tracking with their permission, the mapping, using it to get a ride share app if they're in an area where the bus or train doesn't go, appointment alarms, medication alarms. There's a lot that can be done with technology to overcome a person's challenges in their so-called inability to be independent. Monitoring, I talked about banking tools earlier. One I didn't list, that the guide didn't list, is an example where maybe I can manage my finances pretty well independently, but sometimes people take advantage of my generosity. And so maybe a trusted family or friend I give them permission. We set up my bank account so they can log into my account and not make changes, but just monitor to make sure there aren't any new or unusual or excessive changes. That money's going out where it's supposed to be, money's staying in when it's supposed to be. So online monitoring. These are all very simple but valuable, priceless examples of how we can support people who aren't otherwise completely independent. Why is that important? I've already answered that earlier because we know that people who feel like they're in charge, even if they need lots of help, have much better outcomes in all areas of their life. There's less feelings of depression, learned helplessness, like I said earlier, increased chance of having a job, living in a community setting rather than an institutional setting, remaining in charge of a person's life. I think we can all imagine, and I gave lots of examples earlier, just because I need help in an area doesn't mean I want or would benefit from someone taking over in all the areas. It's a basic human, civil, and even constitutional right to autonomy or a right to self-determination, to be that in charge of our own lives, even if we need lots of help. And even the best guardianship arrangement, and there's lots of really good and the norm is really good guardianship arrangements, right? But it's still a legal intervention that at its base is taking away a person's rights and giving it to someone else, maybe for many years, maybe forever, depending on the situation. And even well-intended overprotection is still overprotection. And we want to remember that it's not like in the olden days, I like to say, I've been doing this work for over 36 years. So in the olden days, we thought about guardianship and we used guardianship a lot more. We thought somebody had a disability, they couldn't be independent, they had to have a guardian. But we know now that's just not true. And we have a lot more services, and our thinking about it has changed from when I was first doing this work. So we know now that guardianship is not required in order in most situations, for a person to access services. Sometimes people will tell you it's required, but sometimes those people are wrong. And that's where we might be able to help, or the ombudsman's office might be able to help if somebody's trying to say you have to have a guardian. And it doesn't mean that a person's just all on their own without any help. I think I've talked a lot today. Tabiso and I both have shared examples of how we've had other people help us. So that's proof. Just because I don't have a guardian doesn't mean I can't get all kinds of help and support. We're not just leaving people alone to fend for themselves, because that would be a pretty bad idea and probably a dangerous idea. And none of us want to be just left alone to fend for ourselves. And the good news is we have supported decision making. We have other tools and approaches. I mentioned release of information. We could have somebody sign a healthcare directive where they appoint a healthcare decision maker if that's ever needed for them in the future. Representative payee, all kinds of opportunities exist to help ensure a person gets their needs met, their basic needs, their safety needs, and then at the same time, it's finding that balance that Tabiso talked about, that balance of what I need and what I want, enhancing self-determination without taking away self-determination. There's a very famous person named Jenny Hatch, and she's in the picture in the foreground. If for those of you who are watching instead of just listening, in the foreground of the picture, she's a young woman living with Down syndrome. And many years ago in the 20-teens, she was placed, there's a long story around it, and there's lots of information if you want to learn more about Jenny Hatch's story, but she was placed under a guardianship that frankly, maybe she needed. By the time she got out of her guardianship, she definitely didn't need it anymore. And this picture was taken on the day of a final in a series of court hearings. The man behind her with his hand raised in the air in victory sign, very happy photo for both people. This was taken the day her guardianship was terminated in favor Instead, she was able to prove to the court she has a team of people to help in the areas she can't do by herself. And I love her quote. I think it's a quote for all of us. I don't need a guardian. I just need a little help. I mentioned earlier, people do not have to put it in writing. It's not like a formal process or tool, but some people do like to write things down, and some providers are more likely, if they've never heard of supported decision making, they might be more likely to honor it or look at it further if it's in writing. Some people prefer it, some people want it, not required. The handouts you'll get if you want them have a lot of different examples and workbooks and guides and forms and agreements. And some of us here in Minnesota also made a form that people can use, a Minnesota supported decision making agreement. And that's available on the WINGS website, which is www.wingsmn.org. Again, you'll get live links in the handouts that are emailed to you if you want them. Our own organization here in Minnesota, but this is the national organization of the ARC. Nationally, there's also the ARC Minnesota, but they have a really great tool that ends up looking a lot like a supported decision-making agreement or statement, where somebody can actually use this form and say, this is what I want, dear doctor. This is what's important to me. This is a reminder to you, my doctor, that sometimes I need help making decisions, but that doesn't mean I can't make my decisions. It just means I need help. So I really like this tool a lot too. And like I said, sometimes providers who are a little worried about vulnerability might be more inclined to pay attention to something that's on paper, because lots of people like paper better than just spoken word. So as we think about it, wrap it all up together, in summary, supported decision-making is an important way of thinking about helping people, where the person gets to remain the captain or the director of their own life, where the person receives the support they need, that addresses their vulnerabilities, that addresses the areas they can't be independent in. They also get the support they want in the ways they want it. Sometimes you've heard of the phrase right size. We right size support and help in decision making if they need a lot or they need a little. Some people might need a guardian, but a lot of people just need some extra support. It is a less restrictive, it's a legal, less restrictive alternative to guardianship. And our law says we have to try it if it's available. We have to try it before we seek guardianship. And so supported decision making keeps the court out of our family, which is probably a good thing to many of us. It's less expensive than guardianship is. It can accomplish a lot of the care and safety and concerns that we hope a guardianship would accomplish. It's going to be a better chance of preserving our relationships with our families if they're there, and our friends or whoever's helping us, if they're there helping us get to a decision instead of telling us what they have decided for us, right? We've talked about better outcomes for the person, and I've talked about it's required by law to try it. So as we're wrapping up our time together, and I hope people have some questions and discussions, we want to remember, we want to take away almost, I see a big typo on my slide, almost all people, including people with impairments, can make decisions, even if they need a little help or a lot of help. Supported decision making helps people keep their rights and find that balance between safety and what they want, or quality of life. And we're required by law, and I would say we're required by ethics or morals. It's just the right thing to do, to stay out of court, to avoid guardianship whenever there's a less restrictive way to help someone. Information available to you. I'm again sharing, this is similar to the previous slide. This is our people who are there to help out. The first two are Lauren and Carlene on the left, and they are the guardianship information line social work specialist experts that people would talk to. And then there's me next. And then on our right, as we're looking at the picture, is our social worker, Kathleen. So there's our contact information to get some extra support, some extra information, to ask me for the handouts, whatever you might need. Our website has a lot of great information, including some videos, including some booklets of how to be an effective supporter. We have some fact sheets that are also available in different languages, Spanish, Hmong, and Somali, about guardianship, about supported decision-making, and less restrictive alternatives. And of course, the hub who brought us all together today has an extensive amount of information about making our own decisions and informed choice and tools, charting the life course, lots, countless, just so much information available on the hub website. I mentioned earlier a group called WINGS, which stands for Working Interdisciplinary Networks of Guardianship Stakeholders. That's a lot. And the website here, but we have, I'm part of the WINGS group. All the people on my team are. We have a lot of webinars. We've had some in-person summits in the past. We have some newsletters that come out occasionally. And then that's where you can find the supported decision-making agreement sample. But again, not required, but if people want to write it down, they can. I want to thank Department of Human Services for substantially funding the Center for Excellence in Supported Decision-Making, which allows me to come and talk to you and others. And what questions do we have?
All right, thank you, Anita. And I believe that I enabled the chat for everyone, so people should be able to put questions in the chat if need be. Otherwise, you can raise your hand, and I can allow you to talk if you'd rather do it that way. So we'll just give it a little bit of time here to see if anyone has any questions.
We have a question there from Kelly. I see there's also one. It looks like somebody is saying school doesn't acknowledge supported decision-making once a student turns 18. I've seen districts stop talking to parents, leave them out of conversations. Yes, and so the question is there something that can help with this lack of communication? In this particular example, the student wanted help from a parent, but due to not having a guardianship, they only wanted the student perspective. I am so glad you brought this up. So there's a big disconnect between many, not all, we're doing our best. Myself and a lot of other groups in Minnesota are working to talk to as many special ed professionals as we can to help them understand guardianship is not required. The IDEA Act, which I always forget to brush up before I'm talking about it publicly. Maybe somebody can drop what IDEA stands for, but I think it's the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act. It's a federal law governing special ed, and they point out and special ed professionals are required to inform parents and students when the student turns 18, just like all people with or without a disability. 18 in our country is the age of majority. And so what they say is, we can't keep talking to you. They say it in different ways. We can't keep talking to you, parent, once your kid is 18 unless you're the guardian. Or we just can't talk to you and they stop talking, as the example in this question. And that conversation, if it's not done well, it implies or flat out says, parents, go get guardianship before or as soon as your kid is 18. And that's problematic in a lot of ways, and that pushes a lot of inappropriate, unnecessary guardianships. That's sometimes people call it the school to guardianship pipeline. The reality is, yes, legally at 18, the student is an adult. But if the student still is willing to have their parents, or anyone else for that matter, help them, the student has the right to invite parents or whomever to the IEP, individualized education planning meetings, just like they have the right to invite someone to the doctor's appointment. Professionals can't say you're not allowed to bring someone in. That is a right we have as human beings, as a patient, as a student in special ed. It's as simple as signing a release of information where the student legally, formally informs, I want my parents to keep coming, and it's even okay if you talk to my parents when I'm not in the room. Here's a release of information. That's a legal option that too many people don't stop to think about. They're thinking about it too rigidly. They're not using their creative imagination to say, just because they're 18, that doesn't mean they can't still have extra help, just like all the rest of us. So what should happen is the student, the parents, the family, we can help. We'll talk you through. We'll give you talking points. Ombudsman's office, we will do our best to help advocate or give you language to talk back to the special ed folks that the parent can still be part of the conversation if the student wants them to. I hope that helps. Kelly?
Yeah, I don't know if mine is so much a question as it is kind of a comment. And just to piggyback a little bit on what was just mentioned. So I am a special education teacher in the state of Minnesota, but I happen to live over the border in Hudson. And I have a daughter who has a disability who just turned 18 in May. And we chose to go with the supported decision making route. And I have been absolutely floored at the number of people that don't acknowledge it, don't understand what it is. We do most of our medical doctoring, all of that in Minnesota, mainly Gillette. And even there, a place where they get so many of our population of disabled young adults that they have absolutely no idea what this supporting decision making is all about. And it just floors me. And then to your point about the special education piece, I'm constantly pushing back on my special education high school teachers when they're pushing the guardianship, because I know about the supported decision making. So I'm trying to make sure that I get that in as a second option. But I guess I just don't know how to get more people to fully understand the realm of it and what it means, especially in the medical field.
Okay. I appreciate that, Kelly, and thank you. And my heart started fluttering a little when you said you were a special ed professional. I was hoping I didn't offend, and I love that the approach you're taking professionally and personally. And you're right. And we've heard stories. I think maybe the person who put the anonymous question in, maybe they're the one. I heard a story recently of a student who was being asked questions. They were 18. They were using the supported decision making model with their family, and they were being pressed to make a decision. And they said, I want to call my mom. I want to ask my mom about this. And the school literally said, no, you can't, because you're your own guardian. And I don't like that word either, because that sort of pits that is the standard. Somebody's their own guardian or they have a guardian. I just like to say they didn't have a guardian and they're exercising their right, and they weren't even allowed, which is wrong. I mean, there might be rules about when you can use the phone during the school day, but I mean, other than that sort of thing, yeah, that was a very wrong interpretation. And so what can we do? How can we? I would actually love to partner with you, Kelly. There's, like I said, there's a group of us that are starting to meet. We meet, a lot of us meet in the Wings group to talk in general across these features, across the state, across disciplines. But this particular area is one we're putting together a little task force to talk more about it, and would love to have extra participation. The other thing we're working on right now and would love your input is we're actually, as a result of that story, we're putting together a rights card. Many of us in this era we live in now, with all the immigration conversations nationally, and the red cards for people who are immigrants and want to and are afraid of being confronted, and so they have rights cards. We're similarly trying to make a rights card for people about supported decision making, so that when we get it developed and get it out there, in an ideal world, a student could sort of rely on it, because it can be hard to talk for yourself when you're in that situation with people who have power over you, like teachers and special ed. It can be hard to come up with the words in the moment to advocate for yourself. So we're making this card that we hope people will help them in the moment. They can maybe keep it in their wallet. We can get it to special ed systems. We're also creating a supported decision making bill of rights, similarly, to try to hit these pieces so that when somebody does come up against this on a case by case basis, they can pull out, we can refer to the rights card or the Bill of Rights. And also, we're trying to do these kinds of conversations like what's happening today here at Facebook Live. These kinds of, we're trying to do training, speaking to conferences of special ed providers, talking to school districts. So we're trying to approach it from a lot of different ways and would love any support and help and ideas or input, or let us bounce our ideas off of someone like you who's got a foot in both worlds, the personal and the professional. I think it's just awesome, Kelly. Thank you. Anything else? No, we're approaching our end. Do you see anything else to be so we should cover?
Nope, no questions here. If anyone has a last minute question, let us know. But otherwise, yep, I don't see anything. And we will send a follow-up email with some information from Anita as well. That'll go along to everyone who registered to be here today. We'll get that email. So yeah, but yeah, let's see. Oh, hold on. Got some messages coming in.
Thanks, Ginger.
Looks like, yeah.
Thank you, Lisa.
Perfect. You can see all those. So thank you so much. Yeah, thank you everyone for joining us today and for attending. We really appreciate all the work that everyone does, and that we can work as a team to improve our lives, all of our lives, all around. So thank you, Anita, for being a great example and carrying all the wisdom and knowledge that you get to pass on to us to help us all and our family members live the best life that we can. So I appreciate that, and I hope everyone has a good rest of their week and a good weekend following. And yeah, if you have any questions, you can call the hub at 1-866-333-2466, or check out our website, disabilityhubmn.org. Or yeah, and you can get a hold of us if you need to get a hold of Volunteers of America, or reach out to them directly through their website. I did put the links in the chat. So thank you, everyone, and yeah, I hope everyone has a good rest of their day. Okay, bye.